Hi, I'm Dennis at TerraFlex, and today we're going to talk about the transfer case on a JK. They can kind of be a bit of a problem to shift in and out of gear. I'm sure a lot of you experience that. There's some little tricks you can do that really help you with the shifting on the things. So before we start, the JK uses a cable between the shifter and the transfer case, which is back, behind the transmission. So there's not a hard linkage, it's a cable. And I bring that up because sometimes these things get to be where they're hard to shift, and what you don't want to do is just animal out on that thing. I mean, you can get a hold of that thing and yank it back so hard that you will physically disconnect the cable from your shift linkage. You don't want to do that, and it's not necessary. So let's just look at a couple of things. Number one, the 2-high, 4-high shift part. So you can be going down the road at speed, pull it into 4-high, put it back into 2. It's not a problem. They're synchronized out. It works great. Now, when you're doing this 2-high, 4-high thing going down the highway, be reasonable about it. There's no reason for you to be going 80 miles an hour in 4-high. All you're doing is spinning a lot of things. Things are still binding up, creating a lot of heat. It's not necessary. Keep it down. You can run them in, 50 miles an hour or so. You're not going to have any problem. Otherwise, kick it back up to 2 and just go with it. Okay, that's great. But when you want to go from 2-high to 4-low, that's a huge gear ratio change within the transmission. In this Rubicon, it's a 4-to-1 reduction. So you're not going to just pull that back and throw it in low range without some serious grinding if you're moving. So to do that, when you do it at a low range, you can have some wheel movement. Actually is beneficial a lot of times. We're going to just do this dead stopped right here and show you that it is possible to shift them in and out of gear, even if you're in a situation where you're totally bound up and your linkage doesn't let you move. Like right now, I can't pull that thing into 4-low. Okay, so let's go. Turn the key on so that I can push on the brake and I can push the transmission into neutral. Just that step on this one alone was enough that it let it go in. If you have the transmission in neutral, your transfer case will shift a lot easier. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you can put it in neutral and you still can't get that thing in and out. They'll go into neutral, you can't go either direction with them. So here's a little tip. Start the Jeep and just put your hand on the shifter and just bump it in and out of gear. Now when you do that, like one other tip here, you're in neutral, you shut off your engine, you can go to park. If you don't go to shut off the engine and you're in neutral here and you try to put this in park, you're going to hear some really ugly noises. What that is the parking pawl in the transmission. Even though it's in neutral, things are spinning in the transmission and you still can't get it into park. So shut it off, then you can go to park. All right, here we are. We got the transmission in neutral and the transfer case. They're both of them in neutral. I can't get this thing to go into 4-low and I can't get it to go the other way. All I'm going to do is just give it a little bump, just a little bump into drive. What that does is it gets the gears spinning so that it gives them a chance to mesh. What we're trying to do when it's stopped is push gears together that aren't meshed. They get on top of each other and won't let them go in. So I give it just a little bump while I'm giving it some pressure here, and that thing will just pop right in. There it goes. You hear the little grind and then it just dropped right in. You heard that gear mesh. So you can do that. Let's try it again. Go to neutral, doesn't go. I give it a little pressure, go both directions with it, reverse, forward, there it went. Just dropped right in. So there's no reason to yank on these things. Just sometimes you have to fight it a little. And here's another technique. Instead of just doing the pressure, sometimes that doesn't work. You can do a bounce. Just give it a little bounce like that as you're going in. And that little bounce while you're doing this, 2 hands to make it happen, will make all the difference in letting that transfer case go into gear. Okay, so it's really important to understand that you're running a cable, number one. Don't animal out on it and make more problems for yourself. Use a little finesse, bounce it in, drop it in and out of gear, forward and reverse, in review, and it'll just go right in. And that bounce technique makes all the difference in the world. Now, when you want to put it in 4-wheel drive versus low range versus high range, that's another story. We can talk about that later. But for now, you're good to go.